I have two that I can think of. One is what I like to do, because there's not a universal definition of diversity, is I will have students in my class write down what their definition of diversity is. And then I'll go around the classroom having each student read their or speak their definition of diversity. And what typically happens is that students' definitions of diversity fall into categories and they emerge pretty naturally. There's one category of diversity called benign differences, and that means students might say something like, everybody's different, or we all have qualities that aren't the same as everybody else. And it's a pretty benign definition of what diversity means, and that people should respect how we're all different from each other. Then sometimes students will layer more complex definitions of diversity that have to do with issues of power or gender, social justice issues, and that's called the socio-cultural perspective of diversity. And pretty much when students give their definitions of diversity, you can kind of see it fall into those two categories. Then the literature also talks about this performative view of diversity. So there are three views: the benign view, the social justice or socio-cultural view, and then the performative view of diversity. And the performative view of diversity asks students, how do they behave diversity? What do they do about diversity? So for example, if they hear a racial slur on their campus, do they do anything about it? Do they report it to a bias incident committee? Do they step in and point out to the person who said the racial slur and explain to them that it was inappropriate? So that's the performative view of diversity. So once we get these three categories written down, I ask students to look at different events, activities, things that go on their campus that shows the performative view of diversity, and I ask them, how is their institution performing diversity? Another thing that I do is I have the students write down the traits of their institution. Think of their institution as a person, and if you were to describe the personality traits of your institution, what would they be? And students will write down a whole bunch of different descriptors for their institution. And then that gets a pretty good discussion about what's your institution like, and is it a diverse environment, why or why not?